Hello again, I am Blunty. That right there is the XFX Radeon RX 460. It is one of, if not the, cheapest, latest architecture graphics cards you're likely to find. The XFX RX 460 has a slightly above stock clock speed of 1220 MHz boost. It has XFX's twin fan cooler, which the fans can actually clip out of, which isn't something I've seen on cards recently, but it's actually kinda nice. Makes for an easier cleaning job should your heatsink become a bit choked up with dust. On the back panel, a single display port, a single HDMI socket, and a DVI port. And like the rest of AMD's Polaris chipset-based family, it's made with the 14nm FinFET process, bringing along with it AMD's new power, gating, and clocking technologies. So if you've not used an AMD card in the last year or two, you'll find the new ones run much cooler and more efficiently than you might be used to. And much to my surprise, given that this is the lowest end card, and the XFX double dissipation flavour here is the cheapest amongst the 4GB RX 460s itself, between AMD's new chips and the surprisingly well-behaved basic cooler here, even under extended benchmarking loads, this card managed to keep itself at under 65 degrees Celsius, and it did that while keeping the fan at practically silent 33% speed. It's not even reaching 1300 RPM for crying out loud. It's amazing. So we are off to a remarkable start at the budget end of AMD's budget end. Sure, the fans and shroud don't really smack of high-end materials, and the design is hardly sleek or sexy, and there's no fancy stuff like RGB LEDs, but let's face it, you don't need any of that stuff on a card like this one. But more importantly, performance-wise, Fire Strength generates a respectable but modest score, as you'd expect at this end of the spectrum. Of course, you're not going to kick the ever-living hell out of games with an RX 460. It is made with the easy-to-run esports type games in mind. Not my own personal wheelhouse, but as a representative, I threw Smite at it. In medium settings, 1080p of course, as will be all my tests, and I got back a smooth experience floating up at around 150 FPS, so you're always dealing with a nice fresh frame to eliminate issues of latency. My other go-to for this side of the game offense is CSGO, this time in high settings. Again, the need here is for very high frame rates. Deep in the triple-digit territory is preferable, even if your monitor can't actually show you all those frames, as most monitors can't, by the way. It makes sure that when you do get a new frame fed to your screen, it is as fresh a frame as possible, earning you a few milliseconds of advantage when it comes to latency. And the XFX RX 460 churns out between 170 and 220 FPS in these settings. I hear tell some CSGO players consider anything less than 300 FPS unplayable. But if that's you, well, you can go down to medium settings or something, I suppose. But aside from its target market of esports type games, also worth exploring is how well it deals with the AAA experience, and with Watch Dogs 2 being one of the more aggressively GPU brutal titles at this end of the year, well, you'll find the sweet spot in the medium quality preset, believe it or not, with motion blur turned off for a bit of extra snappiness, and because I can't stand motion blur in most games. For third-person and open-world games of this type, I personally like to shoot for at least 45 FPS to give me a nice window of performance. If things do bog down a bit in really busy scenes or whatnot, I'll still be above the minimal playable experience of 30 FPS. And Watch Dogs 2 is perfectly playable at these settings. Pop-in is a bit aggressive while you're speeding down the highway or something, but you can't tell me it's still not looking pretty great.
What is
These checkpoints to check for drunk drivers?
A little bit
I would
more.
get to roll up on them and press the gas.
For Forza Horizon 3, you'll find a balance of low and medium settings that will send in a stream of frames somewhere above 80 FPS for a smooth, responsive churn around the Aussie outback. Mafia 3, meanwhile, will ask for low settings before it's sitting at a comfortable frame rate that will float above 30 FPS and up to the high 40s when you're asking less of it. And to wrap up, Rise of the Tomb Raider. And once more, the stock medium quality setting scores you flat in that sweet spot for third-person games. All in all, the RX 460 from XFX here performed above my expectations for it. It ran the shin-kicking stuff better than I had anticipated, and the practical silence of it while doing so was pretty remarkable for such an inexpensive card. So if you're hunting for a graphics card for a budget build, or you want to kick some more life into a rig that's a few years old now without spending much at all, here is a damn fine option. Add to that also AMD's newly released Radeon Relive software I covered in a video the other day, and you've also got built-in native screen and game recording, and even Twitch and YouTube live streaming at the touch of a button. In fact, all of the gameplay footage from my video the other day about AMD's Radeon Relive was recorded using this very card. So thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.